let's talk about the other important aspect of Gizmo Garden vehicles. They are creative.
Looks like all the strings are broken.
I love those flowers. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Uh-oh. Still something that sounds.
I know. It's not.
Should be flat, yeah.
So this is the right one. And then, because the one that moves
Yeah,
to
but
the
they
center.
both stop.
I know, which is...
That's not right.
One line at a time.
Yeah?
Like this line's on red.
Okay.
Then this shuts off and this one turns on blue.
Okay.
So it's alternating lines.
We
and
can
then,
do that.
And then just replay.
There's an Annie Brown thing.
What does this do?
If you mix the red and green together, nothing will
So say you only wanted it to be red, white, and blue. You could make this table with one line that had red, one line that had white, and one line that had blue.
What we have done is we doubled it, and that gives you a little bit more of an effect.
I'm gonna make that.
Now, changing things below this line here.
Our students came from 9 towns in rural Maine and New Hampshire, and their interests are diverse.
I play lacrosse and soccer.
And I love to swim.
I like to water ski.
I play a lot of instruments and
I play football.
tennis and horseback riding.
One of my favorite things to do is playing the clarinet, and I also enjoy playing soccer. I really love to read.
My obsessive love of dragons.
My favorite activities to do is play music.
I like playing the trombone.
And I really like to read and run.
I swim and run.
And I really love to both sing and act.
Why shouldn't their robots be as wonderfully diverse and creative as our students are?
We asked our Gizmo gardeners to imagine turning their vehicles into parade floats. We gave them tools including lights, paints, motors, 3D printers, and beepers, and then let them bring their own individual visions to life. We'll let them show you what they created.
This week, one of the big things I learned was how to code for music. I had to learn how to read sheet music, and I had to take that, what I had written down on sheet music, and transfer it into the code language. My gizmo is supposed to be the Death Star from Star Wars. I strung EL wire through the center of this sphere. I made it into the laser, which it shoots, which the Death Star shoots. So I put these notes in.
What I learned this week is computer-aided design. It's known as CAD. It's like 3D printed parts or other parts that you make with the computer, like the thing to hold the dashboard, this platform to put our stuff on, and yeah. So this is my gizmo. It's representing a lightsaber battle between the dark side and the light side. That's what it does.
This week of Gizmo Garden, I learned about breadboarding and how it's different from a circuit board. The difference between a breadboard and a circuit board is a breadboard would be used for like a single product if you're making one random tree, or you would use a circuit board if you're making like 1,000 trees, because the components of the circuit board are soldered in and they don't take up as much space. And my gizmo is themed from a pack of frogs I got in Hawaii, and one very convincing alien on one of the platforms, and it's on a rotating turning table, and it's got electroluminescent wires as vines.
Gizmo is able to drive without any kind of remote. The Gizmo operates kind of like a spring, and when it's farther away, this spring is being stretched. And as it gets closer to the Gizmo in front of it, the sensor also senses the Gizmo in front of it, and it backs away. My Gizmo is a ballerina leaping across the stage. It plays the Trey Pop from the Nutcracker.
One thing I learned this week were the phototransistors. In order to stay on the road, the Gizmo has to see where it's bright and dark. We use phototransistors to detect the brightness and tell the computer whether it's on the road or off, so it could steer. My Gizmo represents a word that I think describe me, and that is happy. For me, saying don't worry, like to smile and wash the worries away.
At Gizmo Garden this week, I learned one of many things was how our robots multitask. So, as you can see from the other demonstrations, that they have to do many different things, like work the motors and display message boards, work lights, all at what looks like the same time. So how do they do it? Well, actually, the robot's not doing them at exactly the same time. It switches back and forth between many different tasks about 100 times per second. And that makes it the simulation that it looks like everything's going at once.
This Gizmo represents my love for swimming, and it has a swimmer diving off the blocks, which is attached to a motor, and a message board on the back, and it also plays the national anthem because that's they always play that at swim meets.
One thing that I learned is about 3D printers. They work basically by taking plastic like thread, melting it at about 210 degrees Celsius, and then squirting it out really, really precisely to make objects such as this. And so my Gizmo is supposed to be a chicken eating a worm. So this color right here is the brownish is the worm, called worm hill, and then the red is supposed to be the worm.
One of the things I learned is about servo motors. Servo motors are basically motors that follow commands. Different types of servo motors are rotating motors and waving motors, etc. Some of the things you can do with the code with the servo motors, if you can make it speed up or go nice and slow. And my Gizmo is, since I like football, I have the Super Bowl here, and a little ball goes around, and the quarterback throws it to the receiver. But the receiver keeps on missing, so they're doing really bad. And so what happens is the excitement goes up, and when he misses it, it stops, and then it goes like kind of a disappointing
But one of the most important things I learned was about the proximity sensor, which has two eyes, one of which shoots out an infrared light, which reflects off of the license plate ahead of it, and the other eye detects that light. Originally, I was gonna have John Lennon, who dismantled Barbie doll, standing up strumming a guitar, but with the way that the arms are made on the doll, I couldn't do that. So now we have John Lennon laying on the deathbed with this luminescent peace sign, as what some people refer to the light, like as a gate to heaven. Yeah, thank you.
The part that struck me the most and the part that really got me thinking was the ethics of self-driving cars.
Imagine that you're in the future and you're riding a self-driving car. Suddenly something happens in front of you and you need to swerve to get out of the way to save your life. The only problem is, on one side there's a motorcycle, on the other side there's an SUV. What should you do? This is a dilemma that is faced when you program a self-driving car to actually drive on the road.
My gizmo highlights my obsessive love of dragons.
I have 4 3D printed dragons. I'm going to show you my simulation of fire coming out of this one fountain. So I programmed these lights 3 different colors, and I think it came out really good.
Something I wanted to talk about was the turning mechanisms for all of these gizmos. You program in to make them move 100% for both wheels is moving forward at full speed. To turn, one of the wheels must be set to a negative and the other is a positive. I spend a lot of time playing guitar, and although I'm not a big 80s freak, a lot of my favorite guitarists did come before my time. So I thought it would be a neat idea to try and recreate a concert float from one of my favorite guitarists, Jimmy Page. And so I chose Stairway to Heaven. If this song doesn't already annoy you, it's probably going to by the end of this.
At Gizmo Garden, I learned a little bit about things called infinite series, which are just equation that's repeated, and then it gets closer and closer to a desired number.
So you never quite get there. You just get closer and closer.
And that is used in my my gizmo here, which is Pi-mobile. So it generates guesses for pi, getting closer and closer each time. So here it starts off at 4, and it'll get closer and closer to pi. So 3.14 already it's gotten. It guesses about 50 times a second, and then every 4 seconds it'll display up here.
This week I learned about many things, but what stuck out was the piezo sound.
I learned that the crystal inside vibrates and expands thousands of times a second, creating a sound which can be manipulated by programming a tune into your Gizmo's computer. My Gizmo represents the 2016 presidential race by having our first president in the center and having 2 American flags raised around him with the Star Spangled Banner.
I learned that
computers, you need to transfer the colors for lights into numbers for the computer to understand them. So when I program the lights that are on top of my gizmo here, I had to
go to a color chart that transferred the colors into numbers, and what my gizmo is a cross between a fire truck and something that looks a little bit like a UFO.
You may have heard us mention something called coding once or twice or 5 or 6 times tonight. And essentially all week we've been using a form of software called Arduino, where essentially you just have to upload different programs to it and then make slight alterations depending on what you want to put on your gizmo. So for some of the motors, you had to adjust like the angle that you wanted whatever your moving piece was to move at. And for the lights, as some people have mentioned, you would have to program in different like patterns or colors. So if you don't know what Glee is, I can see you roll your eyes, Father. No, it's a really good TV show that unfortunately ended last year. And the whole essence of the show was essentially, I am proud to be different. It's the best thing about me, which is what that horrible show.
And it also plays the song that everybody loves to hate because it's so overplayed at this point. Don't stop listening, if you couldn't tell.
Yes, that's it. Thank you, everybody.
Aren't they awesome?
Yeah.